Hi guys, it's been probably about a week, give or take, since I last made a video. And I'm still stuck in the book of Job, though I'm a lot closer to getting it through than I was. Okay, I'm in Kansas, and I also visited my brother. I decided to solve some of my stress problems by getting away, basically ran away from home. Been talking to my husband. He's been switched over to the rehab. It seems genuine. He's actually gone so far as to get a shot that prevents him from being able to drink. So I have pretty high hopes with that, and I miss him something fierce. So I'm looking forward to him coming home. My trip out here and him coming home, I should be getting back at the same time he's getting released, and I don't believe he's going to turn himself in on his warrants. So that is going to continue to hang over our head. But I miss him so bad at the moment, I don't actually care. Yeah. So, I mean, just today when he called me, he sounds so good because he's sober. He sounds so good. And he actually told me that he was sorry, and he meant it. And it wasn't just for like the last fight. It was for all the crap that's happened up to now. He's still not 100% admitting to the damage to the trailer, but he spoke of fixing it and working with me to fix it. I'm praying that all of this is genuine and that's actually what happens. But I really miss him. I really love him. And so I'm looking forward to that. And I know last time I spoke to you, I was telling you I was reading in the book of Job, but I didn't understand it. So I'm getting a lot better at understanding it. I brought up a lot of other questions, a lot of definitions for words, things. But basically, let me summarize for y'all. Book of Job. Job's this really pious, awesome guy. Does all the right things, does everything he's supposed to do, doesn't do any sins knowingly, pretty much perfect and upright, even by God's standards. God says so, because the book starts that God's in heaven, and having a conversation with Satan, which I guess they have, where he's kind of showing Job off. He says, consider my servant Job, like how he faithful he is, how he walks in faith, how he does keeps all my commandments, how he does all these things that he should. And Satan counters God with saying, yeah, because you've given him family, and you've given him children, and you've given him riches, and you've given him all these wonderful things and high status in life and good health, and if he, so of course he's going to praise your name because there's something in it for him. He got all that out of you for doing those things. He wouldn't be faithful to you and love you if he didn't have those things. And God ends up granting him permission to take all those things away from Job, which he does. His children die, his health explodes, he loses his status, he's covered in boils, he's in the dust of the street. His wife tells him to just curse God and die, and he still won't do that. But he's feeling pretty unjustly tormented. He's suffering, he's heartbroken, he just doesn't see the point of all of his suffering, and so he's feeling like he's unjustly suffering, which he kind of is. Anyway, so these three friends come up to him to supposedly, help commiserate with them and join him in the dust and join him in his misery. But they're really lousy at being good friends for misery. They're not comforting at all. They are also, I guess, of equal station and pious in their own eyes, at least. And it was common knowledge that, you do good, you get good. You do bad, you get bad. So they all proceed to tell him that he must have sinned, that this is the wrath of God, and he had to have done something evil to get it. But that's all there is to it. So Job is now despondent, despairing, and suffering, and indignant. He swears, I did nothing to deserve this. There is no sin. And he says, would that I could speak to God myself. I want to know why. Why? The eternal why. Why, God? Why am I suffering? Why are you doing this to me? But he tells every one of his friends that they're wrong. And he says, oh, but if I could just tell God himself, or stand in front of him and speak to him, say, I've done these things. Why am I suffering? Then there's this fourth guy that shows up out of nowhere. And he goes back away just quick. He's younger than everybody else because he spends a lot of flowery words talking about how he waited for everybody else to speak and he was fighting his place and stuff like that. At first I wasn't sure if he was wrong or right because the language is so poetically Old Testament, King James, that I could not comprehend what I was reading. I read commentary on it. I ended up watching YouTube videos on it. I think the guy, or at least the role of the guy, is there to explain when God talks back. It's to give it context. And I think in typical Hebrew backwards fashion, where if I was writing it as a story, I'd have given the context afterwards, after God spoke. He gives the context first. But he pretty much tells the three friends, you guys are wrong. He didn't sin. You're wrong to tell him that the only way he could suffer is sin. You're out of line. But then he tells Job that you think you should talk to God. You think you have the right to stand up to God. What in the world makes you think that whether you sin or don't sin has any effect on the creator of the universe? You think that he needs you to be good? You think you're doing him a service by being good? By doing what you should do to have a good life? That you're doing that? You think he owes you something for that? You're supposed to do that. You really want to contend with God? You say you really want to tell God he's not being just, that you're unfairly suffering? And he doesn't advise it. Then God steps up and talks. He says, where were you, Job, when I laid down the foundations of the universe? And where were you? And he goes on and clouds and the complicated mechanisms that underlie the entire freaking universe. We don't even know. I don't even know personally why bugs can walk upside down. They don't know. I don't know how they can do that, because if you startle them, they fall. So how to defying gravity? I don't even know how they do that. I don't know where deer go. Like you see a herd of ponies running into the woods, 2 feet of woods you can see through. They all run into the woods. You can still see through the woods. No deer. Where are they? Sleeping. I don't even know if they're nocturnal. Anyway, there's a ton of stuff we don't know. God knows all of it, and he set up the entire world as a working system where everything is interdependent. I mean, to say we are not the creator would be an understatement. Now, going back to the context that this guy's saying, basically, what I'm getting here is that Job was wrong too. He was wrong for thinking that God owed him something for doing as he should. That God gives us rules and laws and tells us not to sin because that's in our best interest. That's in our best interest to not do these things. Our lives are better. Everything is better. We are back to where we should be if we are in alignment with these things. It's not because he needs us to. It's kind of like the offerings of the church. I always said, where's God going to spend at the God Mall? But exactly, he doesn't need us. He doesn't need us to sin or not sin. We existed as suffrage. The breath I'm breathing, it's from him. It's his. The fact I'm alive, the fact anything is alive, the fact the universe exists at all is at his suffrage. He could withdraw it at any time. He's the source of all. He's where it all goes back to. He owes us nothing. Nada. We are like, not only are we just created, but we're not even very good creation. Like, we disobeyed, we cursed the entire world, we screwed up all the stuff he made. And in an effort to redeem us, his son had to die. And we're still jerk-offs that squabble worse than any 2-year-old you've ever seen. And yet, finally do what we should be doing. And how dare we suffer? So that was pretty much God's point. But they go on to explain that, and I ended up asking my brother about this, the suffering, like, I still didn't answer why. Like, I've suffered. I'm sure you've suffered. Life is hard, and some of it's awful. I mean, my son died. I don't believe that was a penalty for sin. I mean, it could have been. I have enough sins to justify it, but I don't think it was. I don't think he would have done that to me. But I don't know why my son died. I don't know why I went through that. I don't know why. But I'm supposed to trust him. Trust him. And he's not going to prevent things like that from happening. In fact, he may, in fact, cause things like that to happen. But I have to trust him anyway. So I started asking, if I'm going to suffer, trust him to do what? Because he's not going to not hurt me. Because he's going to hurt me. My brother said it was trust that he is doing these things in my best interest. And I'm like, why is it in my best interest to suffer? Why is that? Why would it be my best interest, your best interest, anybody's best interest for there to be suffering? Why is it in somebody's best interest for children to die? But he said it's not in the best interest of your life, it's in the best interest of your soul. This life is not all that there is. There's a life after this one. Maybe there's one even after that, I don't know. But this is not all that there is. I mean, this life is all that we're experiencing right now, but this is only a piece of the picture. And when you think about that, and the fact that, yes, people die, but they're just moving on to the next stage, it's kind of caterpillar into butterfly. Yes, we've lost them. They went into the cocoon, they went into the grave. But that doesn't mean they're not flying. And from the perspective of being able to see all of that, it's not quite the tragedy and suffering it seems on this side of the gate. And if my soul's going to live to fly with them, then perhaps I need to learn a few things, and I am hard-headed. And it's true that nobody seeks God when life is good. When life is good, what do you need God for? It's when life gets hard that you realize you need God. When you're in over your head is when you need God. When you're suffering is when you need God. And maybe we suffer to remind us. Because if we don't remember we need God, we wander away. If we're not aligned with His purpose and we're not in alignment with His plan, then I'm never going to make it to my cocoon, and I'm never going to make it to be a butterfly. And I'm never going to see my son again. And so, and I've been worried that, what if he's going to sacrifice me? Well, he might. He might. And if he chooses to do so, then that's what's best for me. Isn't that horrible? I don't like the idea. I'm really hoping that ain't what's best for me. I'm really not. But he wouldn't do it otherwise, and I trust him because he is good. And his plan is for me to prosper. His plan is for me to live. His plan is for me to see my son again. One thing that was comforting about the whole story of Job, which honestly not much was, not much, I'm still digesting. I'm really not sure what to make of all of that. But he gave everything back to Job that he had originally. The status, he got twice as much. His possessions, twice as much livestock, twice as much housing. Yet he only got the same number of children. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters, I believe. And he once again got 7 sons and 3 daughters. That mattered, because everything else had been given back to him twice as much. And I take hope in that, because the only reason he would only get that many more when everything else was doubled is because his other sons and daughters are alive. They're just butterflies. And they doubled too. If everything was given back to him double and he only got 1 more set, that's proof that they were still alive. So that's comforting. Because, I mean, you're suffering might be gone for so long. How long is it compared to eternity? Really? So I'm not trusting him not to hurt me. As a matter of fact, I'm trusting that he's gonna hurt me. Because I really don't learn any other way. I need to work on that. I need to figure out how to learn without requiring more than just simple instruction. I don't need to be prodded and disciplined into it. I need to just be able to hearken to a little bit of instruction and do as I ought to do. I hope I'm not hopeless on that. And I need to accept the suffering as proof he loves me. Because you only discipline the children you care about. If you don't care what happens to them. If you're trying to correct them and realign them, then you mean for them to fly. I'm taking all this knowledge since it's brand new, and I'm just coming to these realizations as well today, and it took me forever. I read that book 9 times, and then I realized that at the beginning I got. So I just did from chapter 34 to the end, 15 more times. Watched 6 YouTube videos, which there's a lot of crap videos out there. A lot of people get different interpretations that I knew was not right. And there's so many levels. Everything is like onions, layer after layer. Anyway, I wanted to make sure I gave another video, got something updated, get something up there on YouTube before I move so far ahead of this progress that it isn't documented. The urge has been on me to put on this video for a while, and so now I've done it, and I hope that you could forgive the lighting and everything else, as I am hiding in a storage closet in order to do this video, because I didn't want to be talking all loudly and waking up babies. Nor did I want to be interrupted. Alright, I will talk to you guys later, and I'll see you next sometime. Bye.